Welcome to Candidate Conversations, brought to you by DCTV. I'm Larry Brown Jr. Today I'll be talking to your candidates for delegate to the House of Representatives, mayor, chair of the DC City Council, and at-large Ward 3 and Ward 5 council members. Ahead of our conversation, candidates selected 2 topics from a list of 9. This is an opportunity to hear from the candidates ahead of the general election. This is not intended to be a debate. Candidates have an opportunity to respond for up to 2 minutes, uninterrupted, and they will not be allowed to interrupt other candidates during their response. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us your name and what you're running for.
I'm Rodney Red Grant, independent candidate running for mayor of Washington, D.C. Born and raised here in the great city of Washington, D.C. Went to Sousa Junior High School, graduated from Dunbar Senior High School.
Fantastic. So born and raised here in the nation's capital and running for mayor. Tell me, what do you think is the number one problem facing D.C. right now, and how would you address that as mayor?
Well, I think it's a number of problems that we're facing right now, but I think the number one problem is public safety, making sure that our city is safe to live in. But also, we got to make sure that we empower our young people to succeed. I think we have to put more programs back in our schools, in our communities. We got to make sure that trades are back in our schools so our kids can have a sense of learning trades and getting back into electrician and plumbing and the things that we used to do when I was in school. When you take that out of the schools, you put us in a position to fail, especially our young people. I think we need financial literacy back in our schools for our young people to be able to learn finances early. And I think we just got to pour that energy into them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about homelessness a little bit. Mm-hmm. Homelessness is being reduced in the district. They are reporting. What strategies would you use to continue the reduction of homelessness and also ensure sustainability of staying inside of one's home?
Well, first and foremost, we got to challenge the MFI here in Washington, D.C., the median family income. For those who don't know what that is, we're using median family income from Loudoun County, Fairfax County, Alexandria, and places around the city where people have a median family income of about $150,000 to $160,000. And most of our D.C. residents don't make that with their MFI. So if we don't challenge that MFI with HUD, then we're going to be in trouble, because these developers are going to be able to do what they want to around here in the city and charge what they want. And they're just going to have everybody moving out of here. And I just want to make sure we pull our residents back into the city that have left the city and be able to afford it again. But with homelessness, I think we have to definitely make sure we have more homeless shelters. We have to make sure we have boots on the ground with people who are actually going out into these encampments that are around this city and finding out what they need. Some need jobs, some need a place to live, but a lot of them really just want to be cared about. That love, care, and respect has been taken away from our city, and when you take that love, care, and respect away from our city, then things like that happen. And I come from D.C., where we didn't have a big homeless problem, and now where we're at with this homeless problem, we got to come together as a community and make it better and care again.
Let's take a look at public safety. Earlier you mentioned we should bring back programs that would help bring young people off of the streets and teaching them trades and so forth. Expanding that a little bit to talk about public safety and those things that fall under that. How should D.C. residents hold their elected officials accountable, and what systems should be set up in place for those?
Well, I started a program called Don't Shoot Guns, Shoot Cameras, right? My background is filmmaking and television. I worked for Viacom for a number of years, being an executive over there, and I know how it changed my life. So bringing, Don't Shoot Guns, Shoot Cameras to the city and showing our young people how to make films from thought to theater was something that was special. We probably saved over 600 kids And we brought Beyond Your Block right behind that, where we take our young people off the block and we mentor them. We took them to the White House, we took them to African American Museum, go-kart riding, fun stuff, sky zones, and just making sure that they're out the way. But also, helping to certify, I helped certify over 1,500 people this summer alone through my Huff program. And I just think that we got to put that energy into building our young people up so they won't have that option to go on the other side. I feel like when I was growing up, when we had 14 Boys Club and I had the recreation centers and, my background, I worked for DPR for a year or so before I got into entertainment, coaching our young people and developing programs. It showed me how it can work. I see some of my students and I see some of my old ball players. They be like, Coach Grant, thanks for doing what you did. And if we don't give our kids an opportunity and things to do, then they're gonna fall on those things that are negative. So I think it's up to us to put that money into developing our young people instead of just developing buildings around our city.
You've been connected throughout your life in the city. You've got folks that are that attribute their success in life to you as their former coach and so forth. You've made people laugh. You've been an executive across various landscapes. Why should voters pick you?
Because I'm an executive that actually understands management. I think our city is being mismanaged right now. We have a lot of services, but they're not working together. And when you have this many services and agencies that are not working together, it falls on management. We have to get that taken care of immediately. And that starts from the top. A leader has to have that leadership quality that you can speak directly to the problem and find a solution. So I always say when I talk to voters and, they say, Reg, we want to vote for you. And I'm like, thank you so much. But I want to tell you who I am as a person. First, I am an executive. I have been in this business for a long time. I do understand that DC is a big corporation that needs to be run properly. And if we keep electing legislators, sometimes they don't have that same quality of how to allocate properly. And this is a crucial time for our city to be able to have funds allocated properly, because it's people suffering right now in our city that they don't have anything, and they suffering not only financially but mentally. We got to put mental health services back into every aspect of our city. It not just the pandemic messed us up, but it was already happening. So we got to make sure mentally we're stable, and we got to get our social services right, and we got to make sure our wraparound services are helping these families that really need help.
Fantastic. Any final thoughts before we wrap?
I just want to tell people that DC is where I come from. I love this city. I care about the city. I respect this city and what it's done for me. And I want to make sure our city gets back where it's supposed to be. I want people to know that we're not off. We were named the worst run city in America last year. And I want to make sure we never get that title again.
Thank you for your time today, Rodney.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
All right, Dennis, thank you so much for coming to the studio and having a conversation with me.
Yes.
For today's candidate conversation.
My pleasure.
Fantastic. Can you start by stating your name and the position you're running for?
Certainly. I am Dennis Sobin, and I am a candidate, the Libertarian candidate for mayor of DC. I won the Libertarian primary. We have, like the Democrats, the Republicans, the primary. And we are the party that stands for freedom. We want less regulations. We want decriminalization of many things that are putting many, many people in prison. But we'll get into that. I'm doing my whole spiel now.
Sure. So tell me, Dennis, what do you identify then as the number one problem in D.C., and how do you plan to address that?
Well, I think D.C. is a war zone right now, mostly because of the war on drugs, which I and my party are firmly opposed to. We think that the war on drugs, which was started by Richard Nixon, as I think most of us know, and adopted by other politicians because it took attention away from local problems. A war always does that, whether it's a domestic war or a foreign war. And it's devastated our city, and it's taken so many resources, it put so many people in prison. And even worse, it's a racist war. If you go down to the DC jail, you'll see 95% of the people there in jail being black, and that's only because this war is fought in the poor sections of DC, not the richer sections. We don't have in richer sections the open drug markets, for example, that the more impoverished areas have. So the police keep their distance from white people who use just as many drugs as non-white people. It's a very unfair situation, and I think it infects a lot of the other issues we'll be talking about, having this ongoing war in DC.
You mentioned the war on drugs and how you could kind of pinpoint it down in some kind of racial disparity, if you will, maybe in the criminal justice system. Let's talk about the racial disparities in DC. How do you plan to shrink that as mayor?
Well, first of all, I don't believe I'll become mayor, so I am certainly the minority candidate here, but I'm asking for the vote of people because I am the one candidate who is not talking bullshit here in the campaign. I am talking directly to the people about what we need here, and what we need to do first is create peace in the District of Columbia. I think the fact that we have this warfare going on infects every aspect of our life. Certainly education, how can you educate people, students in a war zone here? So it's a bad situation, and to be very candid and direct, it's a f***ed up situation.
Talk about then how voters can push their candidates that they're interested in to be able to pay attention to the issues that matter to them. You seem very passionate about the issue that you just spoke of. How then do you push those voters to make their voices heard like that?
I think, you can't just vote for safety at this point, what you know, what exists. You have to take a chance, and you have to seek new leadership. I think a vote for me would be, as I say, I don't think I have much chance of winning because the mayor has, 37,000 people on her payroll, and if half of them vote for her, she'll win the election. A lot more than that will vote for her. But I think people should vote for me because it would send a message to say that enough is enough. We want less people in jail. We want less violence in the street. We want children to get an education, not worry about whether they're going to go home to having lost a mother or a father or a sister or a brother in the shooting that's going on. We have to create more respect for the law, and it's hard to respect laws that all of us disobey in one way or another. We need less laws, and it's a very difficult and I believe racist situation.
Dennis, you mentioned why you want voters to vote for you. Is there anything else that you want the voters to know as we wrap?
Well, I'm the candidate who would put it directly and succinctly to voters by saying that I will not just go along with the existing system. I am for change. There's no bullshit involved in my campaign. If you want to be a head, you could vote the way you've always voted, but if you want some change here, you should vote for me, Dennis Open. I'm the person that will tell it as it is exactly. One of the other candidates in the race, which was well known as a stand-up comedian, uses very provocative language, very direct language, very insightful things, and I admire that. But on the campaign trail, it's all, this jargon about new leadership, new this and that, and he's not really saying anything. He's not being direct. He's not criticizing. He's not stating like I am stating quite directly that we have a up situation in DC, and we have to make some changes here. And it would be a very courageous thing, I believe, to vote for me. At least the more votes I get, the more it would send a message to whoever becomes the mayor, and the existing mayor feels comfortably that she'll be the next mayor as well, serving a third term. It would send a message to her that we have one person here that people believe in, and that we want some changes here done, and we want peace and respect for the law in the district. We want a less racist situation. Look at the murders in the district. The overwhelming people in the district who are getting murdered are black, and we don't have a black city here. Sure. We used to, but now it's, and I just want to mention, because this morning my friend Roach Brown is doing a radio show regarding the situation in the city about black and white, etc. And he's no longer calling this chocolate city. He's now calling it chocolate chip city. And I think it's a good term. And we've never had a white mayor in DC. I'm not saying people should pay attention to white and black, but the fact is that, in fact, I'm the only candidate that would be considered white that's running in the race. And I think people are voting along racial lines because of the same reason that the white plantation owners picked black overseers to keep the slaves in control. And I think that's a very similar situation as we have in the city. And I say it's
all right, so I've got to cut you off there because I want to get this last question in before we say farewell. You are a biker, and I know that you've seen various sides and parts of the district as you bike around. Where can folks get out, and what are some cool trails, and what are your thoughts about trails in DC, bike trails in DC?
Oh, that's wonderful. The Metropolitan Bike Trail right through the heart of the city. When I first went, I'm always accustomed to driving in the city and going to downtown and all that, but we have a wonderful bike trail that cuts right through the heart of the city, and it's very clean, it's very well managed, and all you have to do is put in your navigator, take me to a certain location. If it goes through the middle of the city, you're going to hit that trail. Beyond that, I do a lot of biking along the river. We have the wonderful Potomac River in DC, and the bike trails run along the sides in DC, and of course you can go over the bridge and you'll go on the other side of the river, but there's so many wonderful things, wonderful bike trails, the Mount Vernon Bike Trail that leads out of DC, and I highly recommend it for people to do some biking.
Awesome. Are you going to walk or bike to the polling place on Election Day?
It's a few blocks and I'll bike.
All right.
Why not?
Awesome.
Exercise.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our candidates for joining us for these conversations. Early voting is already underway, and in-person voting takes place November 8th. Don't forget to cast your ballot for this year's general election. For everyone here at Candidate Conversations and at DCTV, I'm Larry Brown Jr. We'll see you next time.